China is fast gaining military advantage in space, completing 50 orbital launches this year alone, ahead of the US, which carried out 43. Australian space industry firm LeoLabs has been closely tracking the launches, and President Terry Van Haren joins me now. Good afternoon to you, Terry.
Hello, Julie. How are you?
I'm well. Terry, 50 orbital launches this year by the Chinese. What does this mean, and should we be concerned?
Well, it means we're in a second space race in one sense. And when you talk about China, we're talking about a space race of really from the Chinese government against the West. Now, 50 plus launches, actually 52, they had a couple of failures, is a very high number in the space terms. The United States haven't achieved over 50 launches in one calendar year since 1967. And that was the height of the Cold War. So it certainly shows that China is really out-launching the rest of the world, and it is certainly putting a lot of hardware into space.
So should we be worried? I mean, what is he saying? More than 50 since 1967? It's quite a lot.
It's quite a lot, because nowadays we're talking about those launches deploying many satellites of a whole bunch of different types. In low Earth orbit, it's all about Earth observation, and China has certainly been increasing its number of those type of satellites that are observing everything is happening, on Earth. They're also building their navigation systems up, their communication systems, and of course, amongst that is also potentially the space threats, the military satellites that are there for potential space conflict. So yes, China is really setting the pace now, outpacing the United States, outpacing the rest of the world in deploying military hardware and dual-use hardware into space.
So what is the purpose of these Chinese satellites in particular?
Well, there are obviously many purposes in many respects. We've got the Earth observation purpose, so there's really a growing constellation of capabilities that are circling the Earth and observing everything that's going on, especially military deployments and military type dispositions. Of course, they have their navigation systems and communication systems, and there's a whole bunch of very suspicious activity that's going on in space as well. There was a satellite recently launched in October called SJ-21, to keep it simple, and it was stated by the Chinese as a inspection satellite and a debris management satellite. Now, it is now in the geostationary belt, so that's 36,000 kilometres, and that's typically not where there is any debris. It's really where the critical assets of the United States sit in terms of their military command and control. So it's a very, very suspicious satellite, and it was even more suspicious when it basically produced a sub-satellite to accompany it as it manoeuvres around those orbits. So this is the sort of activity we really need to be concerned about. It means that China is preparing for the potentially space conflict. And of course, when we talk about space conflict, it's like chess. You really want to deploy your pawns and have those in place before you either, start into these type of missions, if you like.
What does this all mean in the event of a conflict, a space conflict, as you just said?
Well, we saw a little bit of what space conflict looks like with the Russian ASAT test later in November. I mean, that's probably a more dangerous sort of scenario where kinetic type kill vehicles are used and they form an amount of debris. But already, in fact, the US government is reporting an amount of what we call hybrid warfare in space, and that is disruption of their systems via either lasers or directed energy in orbit. And these things are happening every day. What can we expect? Well, if space warfare occurs, what we will see is a degradation of all the space services that we rely on every day, our navigation systems, our timing. You won't be able to get your Uber. It just won't work. And it will affect everything we do, mining, agriculture, and our entire economy. So we should be very, very concerned about the potential of space conflict and the degradation of space services here in this country. And one of the reasons is because I say we're on the front line. We obviously are very close to China longitudinally. China, Beijing and Perth are exactly the same longitudes. So if these things happen, then we should be really, really concerned about the effects that are going to occur in Australia.
Terry, can you tell us a little bit about the new radar facility that LeoLabs is constructing in WA and the Territory as well, I believe?
Yes, certainly. We LeoLabs are building radar systems all around the world. Our West Australian space radar we'll build next year, and it's a search and a tracking radar. It's there to map low Earth orbit. It'll map all the satellite activity, the space junk and the debris, and we'll use that to build a better picture of what's going on in space. Our future plans also work in lines with building what we call the Aussie Space Radar Project. And this is a modular system that we're developing. We'd love to deploy to the Northern Territory and probably in the future a bigger system in Western Australia. And this is because this is where Chinese launches are typically occurring. If they launch on medium inclinations south, those initial launch vehicles will track over Australia and before they reach their orbits. It's very important, we gain an initial orbit determination. We're able to then put sensors onto what's going on in space so we can really work out what these vehicles are. I say distrust and verify when it comes to China. They always have a cover story. It's not usually a good one. And really, we want to make sure we can use our sensors here and create the space domain awareness this country needs to understand what's going on in the military side of space.
Well, Terry, thank you very much for breaking that down for us this afternoon. It's certainly a lot to get your head around, but I tell you what a fascinating role you have. You've gone from Air Force commander, fighter pilot, and now you're with LeoLabs. Terry, it was so lovely to chat to you.
Thank you.